give you an overview of what Webex calling is. And it really is a cloud-based collaboration solution. It is not just calling. It involves, everything in the Webex portfolio from, the Webex meetings, Webex messaging, giving you device management in the cloud, integrations into things like single sign-on and your calendaring. And then most recently, calling was added to this. And it's all managed from the user interface in a single application. So your users no longer have to learn multiple applications for all of their collaboration needs. And this single application then maps into the single platform, which is Webex. And it provides things like enterprise-grade security, the ability to do some deep analytics into there. And it is a hybrid solution. It can work in the cloud, as well as in conjunction with your on-prem communications manager to give you a more robust, flexible calling environment. Like Pat said, it is an enterprise-grade calling solution. Just a sampling of some of the features that are available in here for the users. And if you're not aware, this was based upon an acquisition that Cisco did about 5 years ago, a company called BroadSoft. BroadSoft had millions of voice over IP lines out there because it was the dominant market player for the service providers. Service providers such as AT&T, Verizon, and so forth all use BroadSoft as call control backend for their hosted voice solutions. Cisco acquired BroadSoft and then added some additional capabilities to it. And probably the most significant is the control hub, which we're going to dig in deep because it gives you that single pane of glass from an administrative standpoint to manage. Like I mentioned, for your users, it's a single application that installs for them. And you decide as the administrator what workloads those users can do, whether that's meetings or messaging or calling capabilities. You decide, but all your users use a single application to interface with the Webex platform. It does have enterprise-grade security. So it's encrypted communications end-to-end and at rest and in transit. So you're assured that you're going to meet all your compliance requirements with that. Gives you the ability to control endpoints, not just phones, but also video endpoints, and allow your video endpoints to also act as phone devices as well. So you can replace those conference room phones, if you will, with a video endpoint and handle all of your needs in that one particular room. It allows flexible calling plans. Obviously, like we've always done, we support a premise-based plan. So if you have traditional PRI type trunks in place or SIP trunks in place for your current solution, we can leverage those with a local gateway to continue using those trunks. If you're looking at doing something like a cloud connected provider, like an IntelliPeer, for example, we have peering relationships with IntelliPeer to do that. Service providers are bundling their trunking capabilities with Webex calling to give you a very robust plan. And then about 3-4 months ago, Cisco introduced the Cisco calling plans. And this is intended to replace your trunking needs. Cisco becomes your PSTN provider in this situation and gives you the PSTN connectivity that you need for your users in a very cost-effective manner to provide those calling needs. All right. So ultimate flexibility when it comes to how you handle your PSTN trunking with a cloud-based solution. You've heard me mention Control Hub a couple of times. Control Hub is the single pane of glass for all of your administration that you need for the Webex platform. You can set up administrator roles, whether you're a full administrator or maybe you want to assign a compliance officer to make sure you're adhering to your organization's data policy requirements. And all of this is your interface not just for management, but also for the deep analytics that are built into the Control Hub and the Webex platform. It's an easy system to purchase. It's offered as both a named user or an enterprise agreement situation. Enterprise agreement does have a requirement of a minimum of 250 knowledge workers. And what a knowledge worker is someone who is assigned a phone. You know, if John Doe has a phone and an extension assigned to them, he would be a knowledge worker. But with an enterprise agreement, we also give you enhanced capabilities in there. So if you sign up for the 250 minimum, you automatically day one get an additional 20% licenses added to your subscription at no additional cost. In addition, we include licensing for what we call common area devices. Maybe these are conference rooms where you put a conference room phone, or a lobby area where you put a phone, or a maintenance shop where you may have a phone and multiple users using that device, but it's not assigned to any one individual. And then we include what we call access level licenses, 20% of that knowledge worker count. And those are for your traditional analog devices, fax machines, and the like. And then also include all the video device registrations that you need to register this to the Webex cloud so that you have the video capabilities to do that, and then compare it with Webex meetings for your bridge in the cloud capabilities. So Webex calling really is that, offers that seamless collaboration experience, the ability to handle your messaging, to handle your calling, to handle your meeting needs for your users. We combine this in one easy to use app and provide a secure platform for your users. It gives you that secure enterprise performance that is in a cloud multi-tenant arrangement. And then gives you exceptional control via the Control Hub to handle all of your users. So just a quick overview on the Webex calling and what that brings to your collaboration needs. I do want to mention real quick an event that's coming up on June the 8th, Cisco hosted event, where we talk about the hybrid work environments and how Cisco is addressing that return to office, return to work scenario. Single day event in Americas for June the 8th. If you're interested in it, you can go to www.hybridworkevent.com to register for the event. There will be some keynote speakers involved, as well as overviews from our business units on how Cisco can help you address that hybrid work environment moving forward. So unless there's any questions, I'm going to hand it over to Robert now so he can do a deep dive into the Control Hub.
And folks, feel free to shout out any questions that you have, or also feel free to put them in the chat window.
I'll actually unmute myself first, sorry. I'll actually start with the client real quick and just do a quick overview of the client to show you what it looks like. And so what you'll see here is I have my client up and running on a Mac. This runs on a PC, Android, or iOS as well. You can also log into this just as an HTML web page and log in and not install the client. So what you'll see first is on the top left, my status has changed. So I'm on a video endpoint, a Desk Pro. That Desk Pro, when I go into share mode, automatically updates me on my client as well that I'm presenting and showing that. You'll see on the left here, you have the different modes of communication that I have. And right now I'm in the messaging mode of communication. And so inside the messaging mode, you can build team spaces. You'll see I'm in a team space called the Calling Tiger team. One of the things you can do in these spaces, you can add web links into them. So you'll see that we added our SharePoint site to this so that I don't have to go look for the SharePoint. I can go to the Tiger team and open the SharePoint directly from here. The other thing I can do is if I go to a message from, so you see all my messages, I can share files directly on here, upload them directly from my computer, or I can share OneDrive or SharePoint files on here as well. If I share the OneDrive files, we can co-edit on that file together. And unlike other solutions, we don't make a copy of that file for every room you put it in. It is a single copy and stays a single copy. So that way, if multiple people can edit on it and change it at the same time and co-edit on that document. So pretty cool integration to the Microsoft productivity tools through that. We also can integrate into Word, PowerPoint, Excel. So if you're living in Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and you want messaging inside that, you can add that as well. We integrate with Outlook on this as well, and I'll show you that in just a second. So those are the messaging team rooms I have and the ability to do it. One other thing I will kind of show you real quick is, let me find one, is you'll see this is a space with external people. Because it's external, it's orange. So one of the differences on this solution is and you'll see that their names are labeled orange because who they are. I can add external companies or organizations directly without having to make them a guest. The cool thing about doing that is when I do that, if their organization already has WebEx messaging deployed, then they would just get an invite to my meeting room and we would be able to share back and forth. And each organization has data loss prevention control over their users of what they can share, how they can share. Can they share files? Can they not share files? You know, if they share something that said Cisco confidential, like from my standpoint, Cisco actually can block that, so it won't actually be shared in a room with external people. So all of that capability is available in this client. The messaging functionality comes with the calling functionality. So if you buy calling, you get the messaging functionality for free. So let me finish up the external people real quick, and then I'll move on. If you send an invite to an external person whose organization doesn't have the WebEx messaging functionality, we'll send them an email and invite them to a freemium version of the client. It's completely free for them. They can join your rooms. They can actually build their own rooms and do some things. A freemium user is limited in what they can do on their own rooms, but in your rooms, they're using basically the message store capability from your licensing. So that's messaging. I'll move on from messaging real quick and talk about some other things. You'll see in the top right corner, I'm actually connected to the video endpoint behind me. We wirelessly connect to it, and I can control that, which means I can share my desktop. I can make a phone call. I can do any of that thing. So if I click phone call here, I'm actually going to call on that video endpoint instead of using the microphone and speakers on my laptop, or I can share content right to that, whether I'm in a meeting or not in a meeting. Okay. So talk about a few other things. So the phone capabilities here. So you'll see my full list of all the calls I've had. I can look at just the missed calls. I can dial a number here if I want. I can type someone's name and I will do a search for them and find them. So you'll see that I talked to Bill mostly, so that's why I put Bill on top, because it knows I talked to him the most. If I wanted to use this as a soft client, I'd click my computer and do that. If I wanted to use my Desk Pro to make this call, I'd click that. If I had a phone, that phone would be listed here, and I can make that phone call from here. Okay? So I can kind of CTI control the phone. Voicemail is here as well. I don't have any, but if I did, you'd see my voicemails here. I could play them and go back to them. And then last is, if you have WebEx meetings, this tab is the WebEx meeting functionality. And if you have a license, then you'd have a personal room. You could start a meeting. If you did not, you would still be able to use this to join a meeting. And then with a license, I can schedule a meeting. This integrates to my Outlook calendar and shows all the meetings that have been scheduled. So one of the handy things is when a meeting starts, you see the meeting here. I get an easy green button to join. I can actually see who's already in the meeting. So if I don't want to join until I see, Bill join, I can wait. And when Bill joins, I can then join the meeting. So really handy way. All your meetings pop up this way. If you have a personal video device like I have, it pops up on the video device, and I have an easy green button to join as well. So that's the client in a nutshell. Let's talk about how you administer that client. So this is Control Hub. So Control Hub is the single web interface that you would go in to manage all three of those workloads: messaging, meeting, and calling. So you'll see that this is the main page that comes up. I'll talk through the main page a little bit and kind of explain to you what you have. So in the top left, you'll see organizational health. You'll see I'm not doing really well. I'm only at 15%. This is a demo account, so that's why. But let's see why we're only at 15%. And I can tell you primarily it's because I took single sign-on and a couple other directory sync and things off of this account last week doing some testing. So what this does for you, this organizational health, is this helps you make the experience better for your end users. And what's neat is if you want to do any of these things, you click on it and it configures right there. That's how you go configure it and take care of it. So easy to implement and manage and take care of and do these things. And so we directory sync with Active Directory, with Azure Online, with Okta, with many of the solutions that you're probably using out there. So that's the directory sync. We calendar sync as well with both Microsoft and Google. And then things like the auto license template and things like that I'll talk about a little later. So go back to the main page. Underneath organizational help is your Webex services. So this is telling you what's going on our back end. Are we up? Are we having issues or not having issues? So a couple months ago, I logged into this. Webex was yellow. There was some issues in a foreign country that was causing people in, I think it was England, to have to come to the US nodes to use Webex. And so that's why we made it yellow. And then it eventually turned green. So when I'm seeing, if I'm seeing issues in Webex, sometimes I'll log in just to see if there's something going on here. Top right is your onboarding, how many folks you brought on, whether they're active, inactive, verified active. We'll talk through that. You have your devices in the middle, what the status of your devices are. You'll see that I only have one online. What's neat about this is you can set up messaging for a device. So like this video device behind me, maybe this is an executive's video system. I want to know if that goes down. You can set up a notification to send you a message in the messaging app to let you know if a status changes on a video device. That way you can get in and get it fixed for the executive team. Okay. Bottom right is where you would manage your subscriptions, see how those things are going. But also there's some resources here that are great. So kind of first you have the Control Hub Essential book. This is the book for you as an administrator to learn how to do these things. Honestly, I've only opened it once. What I did is I went to the Webex online training classes. So these are classes not only for administrators, but also for your users. These classes are live. You can join a scheduled call, or they're recorded and you can go pull a recording and watch something that's been previously recorded on a topic. So great resource for you as you're adopting the application and getting user on board with it. And then the last thing is the Webex Adoption Toolkit. This is an awesome resource that gives you things like posters, email, preformed emails, leave behinds at video devices or phones, voicemail leave behinds, like how do you leave voicemail? All of this can be customized with your logo, your color scheme, how you want to send this out, how you guys want to email or print these things out and use them. All available to you when new feature functionality comes out. They update this toolkit to let you know new features are out and how to use those features and be able to send that to your user population. Okay. So that's the front page. I'll kind of jump to users because it's generally what people kind of next ask is like, well, how do I administer this system? And you'll see I have a number of users here. And so I'm actually integrated into my Azure Active Directory online. And so if I add a user into my Azure Active Directory, it automatically gets populated here. And so Barney Rubble, we'll kind of talk about, he got populated here. And I have an auto-assign template for Barney. And so when Barney gets brought on, he automatically got Teams, he automatically got meetings, but he did not get calling set up. So let's go set up calling for Barney. Let's edit it. Let's give him a license. So I'm going to give him the Webex Calling Enterprise license. I will click next, and then the next thing that comes up is the specific details for calling. And so the kind of first piece is a location. What location am I going to set up for Barney? I only have 2 locations. I always put folks in the lab location, but this would be if you had multiple sites. You have multiple campuses across that you would connect to. You'd define those sites, and those sites is how the physical phones do 911, and how we know where folks are from a 911 standpoint. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pick lab. The next thing I pick is a phone number for Barney. You'll see I have only one left. So I'll give Barney this phone number, and then the calling plan. I'll pause here real quick and talk about this. This integration here is if you did Cisco PSTN. With Cisco PSTN, that's how you assign the calling plan to users. And the way we do the Cisco PSTN is there's 2 components of it. There's what we call outbound calling plan, which is this piece, and a DID. And those 2 pieces make full PSTN functionality for users. You don't have to give users both. You can give, instead of a DID, you can give a user an internal extension only, send that through an auto attendant if you want to do that. When I click, yes.
I was just going to interject here, just kind of reinforce something which you just said, and also what Bill mentioned earlier, is that many times when you have a cloud-based solution, you're getting a cloud voice or IP solution, but then quite often it's up to you to go get the PSTN connectivity. Okay, just want to be clear that one of the options with Webex calling is that Cisco itself can be your cloud PSTN. Okay, offers a lot of simplicity and a lot less friction in building your phone system. Just want to make sure everyone knows that. Thanks.
Yep, Pat, I was actually able to add PSTN to my demo system in like 10 minutes. Now, I wasn't porting numbers or anything. Porting numbers is going to require your former carrier to send those numbers over, and that takes a little longer. But it was easy peasy. I clicked through it and added them, and it was really easy to do. So Barney now has the full capabilities of that client I showed you guys just a minute ago. So depending on how you guys had things set up in the control hub, Barney would have got an email letting him know he's a new user. That would have pointed him to go download that soft client if he wanted to. A lot of bigger organizations don't want that to happen, so they'll suppress that email or change the way that email is, and they'll do an MSI push of the client. So it's pre-installed for Barney, and then all Barney has to do is log in with his single sign-on credentials, and he's up and running with that client. Now, with COVID, we're seeing a lot of folks say, hey, we don't need phones anymore. So Barney would be ready to go if that's what you want to do. But we are seeing a lot of people as return to office that they do want phones. And what's neat about this solution is these phones are going to work whether they're at your home or the office or anywhere, because we can connect back into these servers from anywhere. So I'll go ahead and click add device, and we'll add Barney a phone. And so you'll see this is as easy as is. I pick the device. You have some ATAs for analog phones or fax machines. We have a couple wireless phones. We have our fiscally conservative phones, the 6800 series. And then the one step up, the 7800 series. And Barney's an executive, so I'm going to give him a really nice phone, the 8865. Video camera, USB power, just kind of Bluetooth everything. So I've picked that. Now I have 2 methods to deploy this phone. And if you've been around Cisco and other VoIP solutions, primarily what you would have done is you would have got the MAC address of that phone, you would have plugged in here, and you'd be off to the races after you hit it. We created a new way to do this. What's really cool is I can just send a pallet of phones out to this location now. A tech can go grab an 8865, take it to Barney, the executive's desk, plug it in, and give him this activation code. And so basically the phone will boot up, connect in, and then I'll punch in this 16-digit activation code, and the phone will connect to the service automatically, do any software upgrades that phone needs to do, and be connected. And this is a difference of our system, is because we make the phones, we're managing the phones. And so any software upgrades that need to happen we take care of as part of this cloud solution, instead of you having to manage those outside of the solution. Okay. So with that, you have your activation code and you can send that. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was adding 300 users, I would not want to click through all of this and do that. That is a lot of work, or a couple thousand. So Cisco thought of that as well. we have a CSV functionality. So after I've imported all my users through Active Directory, I can export those users through a CSV file, modify and change any attributes I need to change, even allowing the activation code for all those users, and re-import that, and I'll get a list of activation codes back for all the users I've added. So really cool way. If you've been around Cisco a while and CUCM, this is kind of like the bat tool functionality, to be able to do mass changes. And this is not only changes on calling, this is changing on messaging and Webex and the web conferencing as well. So all three things can be managed through this CSV file. Okay.
Hey, I have a quick question on that,
Yeah.
if I may. So I took the Webex calling certification a couple of years ago, and I remember that this functionality was a nightmare to deal with. Has there been any update on that for the CSV?
Yeah, if you did this a couple years ago, more than likely that was not Webex calling, that was Spark calling, which was a completely different backend. So yeah, this is.
No, it was Webex calling for sure.
Oh, was it? Yeah. So I haven't had a problem with this. I've actually used this. Cisco is using this. There's a tool coming out in about a month that will actually take a CUCM BAT export, modify it, and import it right into here. So no, this is fairly easy to do. I would relook at this. They've done a bunch of work on it. The other thing, if you did this a couple years ago, there's really no cross launch places left in Control Hub at all. So, okay.
Awesome.
So, okay, so that's the user. Let me go back in and I'm going to change users because I want to actually show you just a couple of things. So let me go to my user. So any of the configuration for calling is actually here under the user. And so when I clicked on that, you'll see that I have the directory number, voicemail, those things. So if I want to add a phone number, I can click here and add a phone number to that user. So maybe there's a second extension or phone number that user is going to have. I can do that quickly and easily here through add number. All voicemail configuration is here. And so you'll see that if I want to turn voicemail notification on and click that on and click on email, it automatically pulls my Active Directory email in. And now my voicemail to email is set up for this user. I can reset the PIN for the user here. What's important is the user has this capability as well. They can log into settings.webex.com and they can reset their voicemail PIN as well. So there's some other stuff that they can change as well. Pretty much everything, like the call forwarding, a lot of what's on this first page they can change. They can't change the caller ID and emergency callback, but they can change those other things. In advanced settings, here's a couple other settings that are important. So your call permissions are here. So your outgoing call permissions. When you have Webex calling, we default this to turning on everything that's included for free, or with the outbound calling, and turning off the things that cost money. So like the international calling is turned off, and you'll see like premium services. These are like 900 calls, stuff like that is turned off. So this is where you would change that. Maybe you have an executive that needs international call capability. You can change that here. A few other things in here. There's executive assistant functionality, hotel functionality. You have the barge in call intercept, and then the receptionist client is all available here. Okay. Go back here, make sure I didn't miss anything. The only other thing I'll point out is if you want to change some things on a phone, you can click here. You can add tags to it. So you'll see I've added a tag of room 202 on this phone. So that way, if I do want to do a quick search for rooms 202, I can find this phone instead of by user. This is where I would configure lines and phone settings as well. And you can and you would configure things like busy lamp fields so I can see other users and what they're doing on the phone. I'm not on the phone. So all that functionality is here down under the user. Okay. So that's the user standpoint. I'll pause, take a breath, make sure nobody has questions, and then I'm gonna dive into like the underneath calling setup functionality.
Folks, any questions? Again, shout them out or put them in the chat window. Just let us know. Don't be shy.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump down into the, well, let me do one more thing before I miss that. So there's a device page here. You can see all the devices I have, and then there's a workspace. So workspace is how you would configure things like conference rooms and setting up conference rooms to either add a phone or a video device. And I'll kind of take a sidestep and explain that real quick. So inside Control Hub, you have a full video management system as well. You know, and so if you've been around Cisco a while, like 5 years ago and beyond, after we bought Tamberg, you know, if you wanted a video system, we were happy to sell you a $250,000 to $1 million system, depending on what you were doing, to do video endpoints. And that barrier to entry was pretty steep. With the cloud now, that's included as part of the solution, and you no longer need that whole back end. So if you needed just a couple of video endpoints, you can buy them, drop them in, and then we have video endpoints that, you know, range from much cheaper than what they were. You're not talking $10, $20, $50,000 anymore. You can get stuff under 5,000 easily, a lot of them, and drop them on a TV, and you get the full functionality. And so that's what you get in this workspace capability. We're doing some cool things like real-time metrics. So if a video point's in there, I can tell you how many people are in the room, the temperature of the room, the sound in the room, humidity. We used to use that people metric to be able to tell you how much your conference rooms were being utilized. We've switched that from a COVID standpoint to letting you know too many people are in a room as well. And so we can alert the on the screen of the video device, hey, there's only supposed to be 4 people in this room, there's 6. And we can also send a message out to a group and let them know that there's too many people in the room. So if you want to send somebody down there and take care of that, you can. So that's the workspace functionality. I'll dive into the back-end calling functionality now. And so you'll see here the first page I land on shows me all my phone numbers. I'll drive into locations because this is how we do a lot of things. And so in locations, you'll see I have 2, Lab and Southside. Each location can have its own PSTN connectivity. So what I mean by that is if you want to do Cisco PSTN at your remote sites, but at your main site, you're locked into a carrier for another year or 2 on a contract, then you can do a local gateway at the main site and do that. So we give you options, and based on the location, this is where you set up things like dial plans, like how you do internal dialing and external dialing. So if you want to do things like dial 9 to call out or dial 8 to be able to call between locations if you want to do that, or you can just leave it open so that you can just do 4-digit dialing between locations. There's really a lot of functionality here to be able to set up really intricate dial plans to mimic some of the stuff that's out there today.
Hey,
yes.
Just with a location that you want to have local PSTN, I assume we've got options such as you could use SIP trunking, you can use more traditional like PRIs and analogs. All of that's in play.
Correct. Anything that we can connect to a cube is in play. I can even get PSTN from an old device system if I need to start out. So like I said, anything that'll connect into a cube can do that. So the other thing we do quite a bit with local gateways is, you know, there are some folks that take a little longer to make a migration from an old big PBX to a cloud solution. And, you know, I've had customers take 5 years to do those migrations. So we can connect into those old systems and 4-digit dial between them. So the users that are in the cloud and the users that are on-prem can still call each other like they're used to doing, even though you have some in the cloud and some on-prem.
Yeah. And folks, when Robert, he used the term cube, one can think of that as Cisco's session border controller, if you will, you know.
Yeah. And that runs on our router platforms, the ISRs and ASRs. You can actually run it virtually now in a VMware. So, okay. Real quick, phone settings. So like how the phone looks, how backgrounds are, all of that can be set up at the entire site level, the location level, and the user level. So if you want those to be defaulted for different locations, that can all be done at each of those levels. Okay, so that's phone settings. Let's move into some of the features on the back end. So if you didn't catch it, this is not only a calling system, but it's a complete voicemail system. And one of the things voicemail typically does is auto attendance. And so, excuse me, this has a complete auto attendance system set up. It's really cool and easy to use, point and click. So you'll see I have one built here. There's really no limit on how many of them you can build. You'll see that I have it up and enabled. You have your general settings, your phone number, if it's doing any call forwarding, dialing options. Then you have your business hours, your after hours, and your holiday attendant, what those look like. You can build out holiday schedules that work across all of the attendants. You may have different groups that have different holiday schedules, so you can build different holiday schedules for that. The same with after hours and business schedules as well. I'll show you the menu here real quick. So when you want to set up the menu, you have an easy, I want to transfer this without a prompt. And where am I going to transfer this? I'm going to transfer this to Barney Rubble. And so I'm going to transfer that now to Barney Rubble. And so if somebody dials 0, they're going to go straight to Barney the executive. So you can nest auto attendants inside each other. So if you have a main auto attendant that says press 1 for the accounting department, and then inside accounting, you have a press 1 for Fred, press 2 for Julie, press 3 for whoever, then you can do that kind of thing. So you can nest auto attendants inside of each other and send them between each other. So fairly comprehensive auto attendant system here. Let me back out and go back in here. So the greeting is here. You can use a default greeting. You can customize the greeting. The instructions for doing that over the phone are here. You can import a WAV file if you've had somebody professional do that. You can also click here and see the script of what you set up in that menu so that when you're recording it, you know what to kind of do. Okay? So all that's in the auto attendant functionality. Usually don't deep dive into it, but we have call park, call pickup groups. You have call queue I will talk about. So call queue, what I typically call this is poor man's contact center. This is contact center functionality. Cisco does have a complete Webex calling contact center that's an add-on to this control hub. If I had it, I did not. It would show up down here in services, and you would configure it all inside a control hub. Really, the main big differences between these two is the professional contact center has reporting that is amazing, and has things like IVR systems, skills-based routing, screen pops, things like that. The poor man's contact center, or the call queue, is really what I see people using for things like internal help desk or internal groups, that they don't need all that kind of professional contact center functionality. And so I'll kind of show you a few cool things in this that you normally don't see in just basic hunt groups. Normally, if it was just a hunt group, you'd only have circular and top-down functionality. This has longest idle as well. So the last, the person that's been sitting around the longest without taking a phone call, it has waited. So maybe Pat is the new guy. And so I'm going to send Pat I want Pat to be on the phone most of the time. And Bill is my more seasoned guy, so I don't want him taking as many. So I'll wait Pat higher to be able to take more of the phone calls. So that's the weighted. And then simultaneous is just ringing everybody at the same time. So you do have announcement files. The other thing I really like is this does things like how long you have left in queue. It'll announce that kind of thing. So like I said, it has some of the contact center functionality. It's just not all the way. Okay. So that's called queue. We have hunt groups as well. So if you want to create hunt groups and use them. Office Anywhere is the old functionality. Not many people use this anymore, but this is, I want to be able to transfer to a analog or a not smart cell phone. So I just when a call comes in, I want it to be able to ring not only on my desk but on my cell phone as well. And so I'm looking for my cell phone. There it is. Most people don't use this anymore because they just installed a soft client on here. So I can have the same soft client on my desktop that I have here, and I get full functionality, voicemail, can see the call and all that. So we don't see Office anywhere used as much anymore, but if you needed the functionality, it's there for you. Then you got paging groups, the receptionist client, and then the last thing I'll talk about is the call routing functionality. That call routing functionality really is how we tie into other PBXs or other systems and allow 4-digit dialing or whatever digit dialing you need between those groups. So being able to set up things like if I need to dial an 8 to get into something, and then that sends me to a network call, that capability is all built into call routing and gives you there. The last thing I'll kind of show you and is there is a complete CDR system built into it. This is the last thing that is a cross launch actually. And so what I mean by a cross launch is it's opening another web page to do it. So this is neat. This is a year's worth of CDR data automatically stored for you. I can do some pretty cool things here. So I can look by external number. I can put my cell phone number in. I need to change this date because I haven't made a call in a while. And hit apply and search. And so what you can see is one of the things as an administrator I always got a call about is, hey, who's calling this cell phone and bothering them? Somebody from the organization is calling and bothering them. So I can pull that cell phone number and see, well, I can see an outbound call from Robert Allred to that number. It was a hang up because there's no seconds on it. So you can kind of look through this. The other kind of thing as a system administrator that I always got a call about is, hey, what's Robert Allred doing as an employee? We see him on the phone all the time, but he doesn't seem to be getting his work done. So being able to kind of look and see what calls Robert's been doing, who he's been calling, who he's been talking to. Like I said, a year's worth of data here. From analytics standpoint, the only other thing I'll show you, and my control hub's kind of boring. I apologize. I don't make any stuff. So I can pull up a better one for you guys at another time if that's more appropriate. But you do have full meetings analytics. So how many meetings, how many minutes, all of that functionality, how many people are doing it, your top users, all of that. The same thing from a messaging standpoint. How many people are using the messaging functionality, how many rooms they're in, how many messages they sent, all of that, as well as the calling functionality. Okay. So the last thing I'll kind of point out real quick, which isn't a Webex calling thing, but it's kind of getting you there, is if you do have Call Manager on site still, we have created something called Cloud Connected UC. This is the ability for you to pull these same type analytics from your on-prem communications manager into this control hub platform so you can get a full analytics look at it. Things like the total number of calls, your trunk utilization, how many folks are using MRA, all of that functionality. If you have control hub in some way already, that functionality is already turned on for you. All you have to do is go down here at the bottom, click it, and set it up. Okay. If you don't have control hub for some reason, we can order this for you for free so you can start using this right away.